All right, everyone, we will start the Finance Committee meeting of March 3rd, 2026. Let's start with the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the minutes?
I think Makai's autocorrect is set to spell Dean Carmen's name wrong from now on. So, yes, C-A-R-N-A in several places.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other corrections or revisions to the meeting of February? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll say
Just want to see if my name's spelled right. Yes, you did. You spelled Allen's wrong too. You've only got one L. I'm kidding.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Opposed and abstentions. 2 abstentions. Thank you. Before we get into budgets, Julie Wayman reached out today and said that we will all need multi-factor authentication for our email, our official town email.
Christine, can you speak a little louder?
We will need multi-factor authentication for our email. So we must go through that process. And a couple of people from IT will be here beginning at 6:30 next Wednesday, March 3rd, to help people get established, get set up. If you can download the app to your phone before then, that would expedite things. But if not, you can just do it. Again, they'll be here at 6:30 next Wednesday to help anyone get MFA, which is a good thing to do. So, and any questions you have about it, there'll be people who will be able to answer any questions. So.
Did they send out instructions or something?
No.
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 In an email type of way, but not a
Very basic. Starts out with you need the app on your phone, or if you're like Makai, I refuse.
Do you happen to recall, is it the Authenticator app?
What?
Which app?
Don't know. I'm okay. The Authenticator.
So to send an email, you need, or to receive an email? Or both?
To log in, you will get, every once in a while, you will get a pop-up that says you have to verify that you are LLC before you can get into the system. And that's just email our SharePoint files as well. So it doesn't happen all the time, but it'll pop up. Usually when you want it released, when you are in a rush and you just want to get in, that's when it will pop up. So again, come early, 6:30 on next Wednesday, and people will help you with the all right, budgets. We had the controller for last week, but we didn't get to it. Can we do that tonight?
Sure, are we expecting Carolyn? Did we hear anything from Carolyn?
I haven't heard anything from Carol.
Micaiah, when you are ready, would you bring up comptroller, please?
Yes.
If you're following along in the full budget book, it begins at page 39. There's also a folder with some extracted pages and notes from them. Thank you. To page 2, please. Our overall impression in speaking with Ida Cody, our comptroller, were these bullet points. They are acutely aware of the responsibilities of enhancing in-office security. And Ida mentioned something that made me think of the old quote that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. She was actually a little bit, not complaining, but say, oh, I have to double check everything I do, every step along the way. And I thought, good. And everybody in the office has to, and everybody has to get trained up to the new standards. And it's helping. It's reflected in a little bit of increased money in the training budget for the next fiscal year. And it certainly is already in place right now. To the next page, please. The office has worked hard at mapping out a set of not just pretty pictures on these workflow type diagrams, but ensuring that each one of these steps where it requires verification or second set of eyeballs, it's all in there. There's now a roadmap for how invoices should move through the office from first being accounted for to actually the check going out. If you go to the next page, we really don't need to spend a lot of time on the actual pictures themselves of the different symbols for what components go into a decision, what data comes in, where things have a yes or no, if but not that type of branch. The important takeaway that I observed was that it is mapped. There is a process. And not only does this ensure better day-to-day operational security, it provides much more of a manual for anybody else coming into the office, picking up for somebody who's ill, disabled, leaves town of Arlington employment. It's good in a lot of ways. Page 5, right, the example payment processing, then electronic funds transfer payment process. All these things have been looked at and worked out in quite fine detail. Salaries on page 6. Yep. The salaries here are the same people as last fiscal year. The numbers have gone up slightly to account for what happens when municipal employees gain another year of seniority. They move up a step. Or they increase their training and they are accorded an increment for that. Right, especially when it comes to, I think one of the employees, I see was pursuing a master's degree. There's always more rounds of training in Munis, which despite how I hear that nobody likes it, everybody uses it as the budgeting platform. On the next page, page 7 of the handout, if you would advance one more. This is what we're looking at for the actual cost to the taxpayers. We went through the comptroller expenses, and everything here is a solid answer. Out-of-state travel, budgeted previously at 4,000, deduct 10% for the 27 fiscal budget, 3,600. This year's big state conference on using Munis will require people in the office to travel. So that's why that number is a bump up from the 225 actual. So we'll take questions in a moment, but I would move acceptance, comptroller taxation total, $4,662.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, questions?
Okay, sorry, just comparing to last year's book, a couple questions, comments. Picking up on the training and professional development, I was just going back. Looks like we've been giving them 15,000 for years. And the most they've ever spent was in 2024, 7,700. Have they not had a Munis conference? Is it annual? Is it every year? Why? I'm just wondering.
It's been local, it hasn't involved the same travel
Okay.
expenses. And there's cybersecurity training that comes on top of this. In fact, while we were in Ida's office, my own fault, it's not Ida, it's Ida. While we were in Ida Cody's office, she was handling requests from other municipalities for a quick call on this or a consulting on that to how they are training up our own staff and how that can be replicated in other places.
Do you know where they've spent in 2026 on that budget to date?
Sorry, I don't.
So I think maybe next year, I'm curious to see what that actually costs.
Sure.
Because I think we've got like 5 years worth of more than $10,000 over budget on that item. Question on the salaries. For the senior accountant, the steps last year were also 8 and 8, so I would expect that to go up to 9 and 9. I mean, I see this, maybe that's just an Excel spreadsheet, because I do see the numbers changing on the salary, so maybe that's just an Excel spreadsheet thing, but to watch.
I'm not sure, they're gonna change classification for this person?
No, I mean, it's just showing exactly the same, grade 7, 8, 8 is what was in the spreadsheet last year.
I'm sorry, I don't have detail on that.
And then for the principal accountant or clerk bookkeeper, last year's step was 4.4, so I would expect this year's step to be 5.5, but it's showing 5.6. And again, the numbers might be right on the salary, and it might just be a spreadsheet thing if you wanna follow up with
Sure, I will ask.
fixing that for next year's spreadsheet. Thank you.
Michael, on your presentation, you have for training and professional development, you have a comment, needed for certification FY26 would be close to actual. So did Ida indicate that the 15,000 budgeted last year is going to be spent this year? More or less.
Yeah, she expected that to come in, pretty close to the 15.
And so will the 13 be enough with the 10% cut?
I believe the spirit was we'll make it enough.
Other questions, Michael? No questions? All right, there's been a motion for 401662. Some seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Treasurer. Treasurer's budget ready?
Meeting with the treasurer tomorrow. No, Parkin tomorrow.
Yeah, Chuck would be doing treasury, but he's not here.
And postage.
Meeting with the treasurer to talk about that.
And postage too. All right, Jordan, facilities.
Makai, could you pull up the PowerPoint?
page is that?
So this is, budget book, it starts, like 110.
Thank you.
So before we jump into the presentation, I think, so the other day I sent out everybody just a few supplemental documents to go along with the budget. So you have the latest building maintenance vehicles, the vehicles that are directly under the facilities control. There's an updated building matrix, which has all of the buildings and which departments are responsible for them, whether it's under the town manager or under the school committee, and just kind of who's responsible for it. Breaks down the different fire stations, the libraries, and that kind of gives you an idea of, who's kind of got, think of it as like your master oversight of that building. Obviously, facilities also helps, but, who has the most jurisdiction over it and the oversight responsibilities that's delineated in that spreadsheet. And then just lastly, I'll highlight that we have an updated facilities department org chart. You can see the breakdown of all the different positions that are covered, not necessarily under the budget that's before you, but also kind of what's paid for, under the schools. So you have a breakdown of, you can take a look at your own time on just the number of employees and kind of how they're broken down. But we'll get to the actual presentation itself. Micaiah, if you could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so big picture items. So facilities, they oversee 35 buildings, 46 and a half staff, responsible for maintenance and cleaning of schools, town buildings. They remove snow from school lots, so DPW does sort of general streets and the general town, but facilities more responsible for the salting, sanding, and the snow removal from the facilities. And then they also perform some salting and landscaping. So there's been a new facilities director, Jay McNeil. He's been in the role since about this time last year. I believe he started in April of 2025, and they have also added an assistant facilities director position that's funded out of the school budget, and so that's something to be part of. I think there's sort of two reasons for that. Is one, it's nice to have that transition plan if there does happen to be another vacancy in the facilities director position, which fingers crossed, knock on wood, we hope doesn't happen. We think Jay's settling in very nicely in his position. He seems to really have a good control, but it's great to have that position, but also somebody that can do some more of the hands-on type of work, some more of the, help out with the project management, do some more of the complicated analyses that the facilities director just didn't have the ability to do before. That's a lot of overseeing and kind of tracking, something that we've kind of been asking for a long time, and just, keeping track of administrative work, the administrative flow of things, but also really trying to keep track of things like the bills and how the energy usage is being managed. So some of his main initiatives that he's been working on over the past year. So keep in mind, just as a refresher, the history behind this. Last year there was an interim facilities director who was really just trying to, keep the department above water and take care of some of the projects that have been going on throughout the town, and trying to address any of the things that had come up. So I think he did a great job in, transitioning over to the new director. Previous to that, for about a year and a half, I think less than 2 years, there was a facilities director who had been in place. So a lot of, I think, when we had the discussion with Jay, a lot of what he was trying to do was just trying to get things, get things in order that, may have been overlooked when you have an interim. Things like getting annual independent inspections of buildings completed in a timely manner, and making sure that you have, just making sure that the facilities are essentially up to snuff and that they're running, and that you have everything in place that needs to be there by law. Something I was glad to see, he was holding monthly meetings with school principals, quarterly meetings with department heads to discuss and identify needs, including temperature management within all of the different buildings, the different classrooms, and it seems like that communication is going well. And something that this subcommittee has been asking for a while is just making sure that the communication and working with the Department of Community Planning, that there was the communication. There's a lot of very similar initiatives as far as sustainability and energy management go. So they're meeting regularly to kind of go over those and just making sure that things are coordinated appropriately. A question that had come in, actually a few questions about this, fire and flood damage at the new DPW building. So that was when we had met with him late January. He had estimated that it was going to be about $170,000 in total damage from the flood and fires. So unclear if this is going to be paid from an insurance claim or the municipal building trust fund. So still looking on as to get a little bit of clarity on that. When we had met, he was trying to finalize quotes and estimates for the damage and the repairs that were going to be needed in order to repair those items. Micaiah, next slide, please.
Sure.
So this is a little bit of a cut and paste from last year, but I thought this was important to just highlight kind of what the energy rates have been and sort of the drivers of what's really been the cause of the transfers that we've had to do for the last few years. So you'll see our rates here for both electricity and natural gas, which I think are reasonable, but some of the big drivers of this have been the distribution rates and the instability in them, as well as some of the cold weather that we've been experiencing both last year and this year. So we'll get to more of the electricity and the natural gas when we look at when we go over the budget in a little while. But generally speaking, natural gas usage is down, but electricity costs are up. This is due to fewer buildings being run on natural gas these days, and with the increased use in electricity. Something to note about electricity, for those of you that have homes that are powered primarily by electricity, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy to get those buildings up to temp and to keep them at temp using electricity. So again, we'll get to that in a minute, but I wanted to highlight that and sort of the instability and the difficulties that we've had with trying to get, I think, an accurate number on the electricity and the natural gas, especially for the new school buildings and the new DPW building, is you really do need about 5 years worth of data and energy usage to really get a good understanding of what you need to budget for. Keep in mind sort of the unusual weather that we've had this year and last year, and the different parts of the building fully coming online. So things that we need to keep an eye on are certainly going to be electricity usage, and I'll highlight that a little bit more coming up. Micaiah, you can move to the next slide, please. So not a lot of change in the actual numbers themselves. I think salaries are generally remaining consistent. You just see the increases mostly with the COLAs. So overtime is the big driver, is mostly just work that needs to be done after hours. There tends to be a lot of work that has happened, and they've needed to call in their department to be able to to take care of things that happen after hours. So one question that we always like to ask is, does he feel that, do you feel like your staffing levels are adequate? And I think, most of the positions right now are filled. Jay did mention that one additional carpenter or a groundskeeper would be ideal, but it's not something that he's asking for. And like I said, most of the drivers of overtime are the emergency situations, it's the after hours work, and some of the more invasive work, especially work that goes on at schools or at the buildings that are used regularly during work hours. Some of that has to happen after hours, just so that there's not an interruption in service, so that there's not an interruption in your classrooms. So that's why I think why the overtime tends to be high. So we asked about double time. So you'll see that double time isn't budgeted for in fiscal year 26 or 27, but there has been double time spent. We've asked why it isn't like that, and I think that they were looking more into it. It seems like that may have been something that they did more for tracking purposes, but I think we want to see that cleaned up next year. The clothing allowance, sort of another item that we wanted to just take a look at. It seemed like $2,100 had been spent pretty consistently the last few years, but we budgeted for $1,450 in 26 and 27. And unclear of whether that was expected to change, but I think Jay seems to be comfortable with this number, but I think it probably needs to be adjusted. The auto allowance. So as a reminder, there's 5 employees that receive an auto allowance for using their own cars. So you just receive, I believe it's a stipend, where the assistant director is the only one that actually receives mileage for using his car. So getting to electricity. So as of January 21st, 2026, about $126,000 had been spent. We budgeted for $220,644. There was a small increase for fiscal year 27. This is a line item that we'll want to keep an eye on. We don't have any sort of estimate of what that number is going to be, but I would expect a department transfer or potentially a reserve fund transfer towards the end of the year. So again, you see the burn rate through about a little over 6 months worth of bills that had been paid. Keep in mind that this was before our large cold snap that we had. So that cold snap lasted about 2 to 3 weeks. So again, I think that this is probably something we're going to need to address in the future. Buildings that facilities pay the electricity costs for. They pay for all of the schools. They pay for the community center. I think I wrote this down right. The Jarvis building, the Jefferson Cutter House, the 51 Grove, the which is the DPW and the facilities facility, Town Hall, Fox Library, the main library, Mount Gilboa, and the Whittemore Robbins. So natural gas. So this number is level funded. So year to date, we've spent $23,848. Again, that's as of January 21st. So that number, I'm expecting the cold snap is going to rise a bit, but again, significant, not nearly what electricity is at. the question that usually comes up, what buildings have natural gas? So basically every school has some form of natural gas except for the high school, Town Hall, Fox Library, the Jarvis Building, which I have my note here, that's the Pleasant Street Building where Law is. The Lombard Field, the baseball field, that's the one down on Spy Pond. The DPW, Parmenter, some rec, Mount Gilboa, Cutter House, Robbins, and new DPW. So repairs and maintenance. So this is for any labor, any materials that's not contractual. So basically anything that doesn't fall under your contracted services, which contracted services, preventative maintenance, HVAC maintenance, plumbers, electricians. Basically, it's spending on labor and materials that's not contractual. So, Michael, you sent the question earlier about sort of, it seems like this number is kind of all over the place. And so I think looking back at the last couple of years, it's been generally level funded, or has been level funded, but I think sort of the big driver in this has just been work that's popped up and sort of the instability of materials and what's needed. Materials costs have been fluctuating pretty dramatically, and it seems like sort of that mix between like, you don't know what's gonna break and what it's gonna cost to fix it is the driver of this. Again, it's sort of odds and ends type of stuff. Green repairs, so we asked, we asked sort of what the plan was for using this. You'll see in fiscal year 24 and 25, was spent significantly under the 20,000. This number had always been used for matching grants or for different small green initiatives related to sustainability that could easily be done. And so we asked about this, and the facilities does plan on using the 20,000, the full 20,000 this year. They're currently teeing up to do steam trap replacements and a few insulating some pipes throughout town. So they do plan on using it, which is a great initiative, great way to reduce your energy costs. As I mentioned before, contracted services, this is all really your technicians that have to come in, work that's above the ability for our own internal staff to be able to use. Typically, it's larger things that need to be replaced, boilers, piping, large piping, different electrical components. Basically, anything not capital that needs to be repaired in order to get a building up and functioning when it breaks down. That's what contracted services paid for. And again, that number is sort of all over the place, just based upon what breaks or what needs to be fixed. So, kind of another question that I think was asked is, how do we feel about this number? And sort of, it's tough because you have this line here to be able to fix things when they break. Again, it's smaller stuff. It's not necessarily capital that needs to be replaced. So I think the new facilities director, Jay, I think he's, keeping track of things that have been replaced and, sort of the frequent flyers, of what they tend to, have to repair. I didn't get an indication that a lot of this was, we're stretching things out past their useful life, but I think certainly, if with aging infrastructure, it's always a good question to ask every year. And I think in the absence of a town-wide feasibility study on, the condition of all of our equipment, I think it's, I think he was pretty confident in saying that it wasn't necessarily not accounting for things. Again, I think it's just things break, you need to have heat, you have vendors ready to go, so. And then just lastly, materials just covers supplies, paper towels, trash, and then just sort of any of the other small, like sort of office or janitorial types of things that are needed, so. So with that, I guess I'll entertain questions or I'll make a motion to approve the budget for I'm sorry, the offsets. So that's come from the school offset is what you'll see in the budget. Again, that's not necessarily the offset of what gets funded out of the school budget. Again, those positions, you can take a look at the org chart and you can see what falls under there, but this is just what schools pays into facilities to cover this budget that you see before you. So again, I'll make a motion to cover the taxation total, facilities taxation total $1,276,594.
Second.
Questions?
I'll toss it.
Two questions. Who does the director of facilities report to?
Town manager.
Town manager directly, not to the public works director?
Correct, that's my understanding.
Okay. Second question is, what the heck are they doing with Mount Gilboa House?
We asked and Jay said to check with the town manager.
I guess that's another question when he comes in.
Other questions about facilities, Charlie and then Josh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I think, Jordan, first of all, this is a great report. Thank you very much. Really impressive. I think you mentioned that most of the buildings in town are heated by natural gas. But the electricity bill is substantially higher. Is that all lighting?
So my understanding is a lot of the buildings, even if you're moving towards, electrifying them, they still have different components that need to be run by natural gas. Like for example, the new DPW buildings, a lot of them have to have natural gas, like let's say in some of the outdoor facilities, they run on natural gas simply because it takes too long for electricity to get up to temperature. So little things like, the little components of them, a lot of it's sort of like antiquated stuff that they're slowly moving towards electricity, but basically to answer your question, it doesn't happen overnight.
But the electricity cost is higher. And then if we move towards electricity, is it gonna get higher yet? In other words, let me rephrase the question. Has the town modeled what the cost of electricity is gonna be in all of these buildings versus the cost of natural gas to heat the buildings?
So I think that I think that facilities, and again, it's great to see some stability in that department. I think that they're doing
I agree with you 100%. It's been a long time coming.
I think, they were showing us sort of their projections and the way that they've been, analyzing and monitoring the month to month and just building to building, the energy usage. And so I think they're getting a better understanding of what the actual needs are going to be. I think budget-wise, it was difficult to have both a new DPW building at 100% and a new high school at 100% at about the same time. So I think that's, and again, just sort of having unusual dips in weather, I think has made it difficult. But a question that we would like to ask again, I think next year on the budget is, you know, what are you seeing, what are you expecting? Again, I think we have fixed rates for electricity for, I think, at least through fiscal year 27. I think gas is about to expire at the end of, I can't remember if it's calendar year 26 or fiscal year 26. So that, again, keep in mind, you've probably seen on the news the distribution charges that are kind of all over the place. So I think it's kind of that perfect storm of, you know, you have these buildings coming online that we're not sure that we don't know what it's gonna take to accurately budget for. And then it's sort of the distribution charges.
And one other aspect, may not be a huge thing, but there still are solar panels that have been installed on the buildings that have not been turned on because of the delay in working with Eversource to get the whatever paperwork.
I understand that, but all I'm asking is, if we know the kilowatts or the therms that have to, kilowatt hours or the therms that have to be used in a given building, right? So that you can translate those back and forth and say, what's the cost going to be? And I'm just wondering if we've done that. I had a second question, which is, Jordan, you mentioned the need for a townwide study on the facilities. And my recollection is that we've had, I don't know if it's townwide, but we've had a company called Inside Outside or something like that do analyses of the buildings over time. And I recall also that we had a software program, I don't know if it's still being used, that took the inputs from these studies and said, okay, you know, this furnace has to be replaced in 3 years, whatever. Are they doing that?
Real quick, if I could just back up before I answer those questions, Charlie. Paul, what you mentioned, the net metering credits. 2 solar panels are ready to come on in the next 2 months at Bishop and Hardy, so that'll the offsets, the credits from those will help to offset some of the bills. So, Charlie, to answer your question, I wasn't aware that there was this study from Inside Outside. Do you know about how long ago it was done?
They've been in and out of town over the years.
They were about the time the facilities department was created.
And that was like 7 or 8 years ago?
That sounds about right. And then I understood that another director came in and decided to use a different program.
Okay. So I wasn't aware of that. My guess is the new facilities director may not be aware of it, so I'm happy to follow up with them on it. So to your question, Charlie, about the tracking of the basically the work order system. And so it is up and running. It's Asset Essentials, and it has been useful to track the frequent flyers. You know, the rooms that are constantly below temperature that need to be fixed. You know, the things like that. I think being able to catch some of the low-hanging fruit, the frequent flyers, I think it's helped. What I don't necessarily get a great feel for is, again, sort of the stuff that's being replaced or fixed through the contracted services versus, you know, what's done in contracted services versus capital planning. And that I just don't have a good sense of. But something that I would want to continue to push in the future, because, you know, the small things tend to add up to a lot of money, and, you know, could this be done better? Should it be done through capital planning? I think those are good questions to ask.
Thank you.
Josh?
Yeah, thank you. Very good presentation. I may have missed it, but I think in the beginning you said that they were adding a assistant facilities director position.
Correct, that position is currently filled, I think it's been filled since the start of the fiscal year.
But
And you'll find that under the school budget, falls under the school budget. So Josh, if you go to the org chart.
Yeah.
Again,
all
something
the
I may ask.
custodians and things like that.
Yeah, so you'll see the assistant facilities director position, it is in there. I think one thing, so this org chart, I think this is basically what was updated from, I think, last year and the year before. I think one thing I'd like to see next year is, a better breakdown of, what the dollars actually are for these things. Maybe it's something we'll see in the school budget, but, yeah, this is what we have.
Mm-hmm. So basically, the schools are covering his position completely, and the offsets are more for the school custodians and things like that. Is that right?
So my understanding is it's just, that's what school contributes to the facilities. I'm not sure there's,
I see, it's not tied to people. Okay. All right.
you actually just jogged my memory, Josh. As I'm saying it, there was some, I'll have to look into this. That offset was based upon some number. Let me get back to you on that.
And then it seems to me that he's doing a very good job, but the budget, to me, seems a little, unlike some of our, it seems tight in many places where they're kind of under budgeted compared to their prior actuals. So I don't know if that's because he's, just coming on board and being optimistic or not, or whatever, but.
I did ask about that, and the answer was they were asked to make those.
Yeah, I'm sure they were, yeah. But it's just always that trade-off between looking at what, preventive maintenance versus fixing an accurate breaks.
Yeah, I don't think it's facilities is probably not a good department to take money from, but it's also not my decision.
And do they have any kind of analysis of the energy use of the high school versus what they projected it to be? Like, is it doing as well as they hoped, or?
I didn't ask that question. I think that when we spoke with the facilities director, I think so his experience was coming from a different municipality, and he was there for a number of years. I think he was there for 5 years. So I think he's got a little bit different of a style than what previous directors had. So I think sort of his approach to this is he's kind of starting from scratch and sort of doing things the way that he had previously done and was successful at. So he was very generous with the three of us in running through his rationale and showing us exactly what he was doing. So I'm pretty confident in, I think, what he's doing. So I'd be, again, this committee, since I've been on it, they've come to for year-end transfers to balance the budget, and we'd like to see more accurate accounting for it. And I think we're slowly getting there, but again, I think it's just sort of the complication of all these buildings coming online at once, and also it's great people are using the buildings, right? They're using them more after hours, during the week, during the weekends, and which is great, but it's higher energy uses.
And I guess just finally, it looks to me like that if you look at total energy expense for gas and electricity, let's say between 2024 and 2027, they're very similar. So comparing the actuals to the budget. So I would say, I don't know what the degree days were, but the electrification of the high school doesn't seem like it's added money to the budget.
Yeah, I really think that they need to look more at the electricity. quite honestly. We're using more of it and it's only increased modestly.
Do they have a ballpark what their transfer request might be at the end of the year?
I can follow up with them. When we met in late January, we had just started the cold spell, and yeah, I'm happy to answer. I think we would probably, have we gotten the bills? Either way, I'll follow up with them.
Better to know now than in June. Rebecca, and then Alan, and then Charlie, and then John.
Pass, thank you.
Alan?
First of all, as far as Mount Gilboa, I think the planning department's looking for the wisdom of Solomon. There are a lot of competing interests. Two questions. There's a sustainability manager in the planning department. You know how are they working together?
Yeah, so Jay, the facilities director, they meet like every 2 weeks to go over kind of the initiatives that they have going on and just, what can we do better? And so.
Do you know what roles they're playing? Who's doing what between those two? There's sort of green engineering going on here, and there's a sustainability manager. Just wonder how the responsibilities are divided.
Yeah, they do separate. Obviously, they do separate things. They're in separate departments, but it seems like they're, really communicating more so in the past and just trying to I think they're, a lot of common knowledge as far as like different, what sustainability initiatives go. I think it's more kind of.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out.
You two feel free to jump in.
Are they working together efficiently?
Yeah.
And there's
The
no
impression I
redundancy.
got, that's one of the things I took down in my notes, is I was very happy to hear that there was that cross-pollination. One particular project is an asset tracking list to understand which facilities might be the lower hanging fruit or the higher priorities. But every 2
That sounds like the inside-outside study, maybe.
I think that was the asset essentials. I generally just found that, again, they do communicate and they do work on some of the initiatives, even if it's, somebody leads and somebody else supports. That's generally sort of the relationship that I got.
Is there value to have separate departments? I'm just wondering if maybe sustainability should go on. I just want to make sure it's an effective relationship.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've seen it done both ways. I think for the amount, so I think it's great that we got this assistant director in, who I think is also doing a lot of that sort of work too. Honestly, I think it's great having the three of them that have the knowledge and can communicate and talk in the same language. So, I know they meet and feel like I'm forgetting part
I
of
look
the
at
conversation.
almost see job descriptions to make sure that there's not overlap and or gaps in there, or they might be more effective if they were sitting closer together.
I think I might be able to help because
Okay.
Talia has come to the capital planning committee quite often. I think she really focuses on identifying grant opportunities and then going after the money.
Okay, so it's fundraising.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You jogged my memory, Daryl. Thank you. A lot that they do help to coordinate, especially on the grants.
Okay, that makes sense. Second question was, do you know how the school offset is calculated? It's like less than 10%. And I'm sure the school buildings are more than that in terms of the resources being used.
I should have remembered this beforehand, but there was some formula somewhere of how they come up with that number, and I think it had to do with the salaries of people within the department. So,
but from a big point of view,
Yeah.
it's like 8% of the budget, and there's a lot of school buildings. So I'm just wondering if it's a fair, split of the expenses.
Throw the assistant's salary in there also. I said throw the assistant's salary in there also, that's another $100,000 probably.
Did you follow up on that?
You know what I mean?
How is that calculated? How is the school
1276.
offset
It's not.
calculated?
Yeah.
Personnel related, I thought.
Okay. Thank you.
Charlie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I don't want to usurp Dean Carmen's role here in looking things up in real time. But I just looked at the current Massachusetts electricity rates and natural gas rates on a common unit and energy basis. And expressed in kilowatt hours, electricity, this is residential, I don't know if the municipalities have the same rates, but residential rates are 14 cents to 17 cents per kilowatt hour. And the equivalent price for gas in kilowatt hours, converting therms to kilowatt hours, is 4 to 6 cents. So if that $120,000 in gas bills that we have in your sheet is converted to electricity, it's going to cost 3 to 4 times as much. I just hope the facilities department looks at that. That's, you know, not being an engineer, I don't want to say all other things are equal, but that's the energy component.
I mean, there is the solar offsets also, I don't know how significant they are.
Pardon?
There would be the solar offset also. I don't know how big that is, how big their arrays are,
But is it 3 or 4 times? I doubt it.
What I wonder about is those electricity numbers you're talking about, that includes a wide variety of older equipment, newer equipment, whatever, that in places, and the newest equipment.
No, this is the rate, these are the rates charged by the utilities. Okay? So if you're buying, you know, a handful of energy, if it comes from gas, it costs one thing, if it comes from electricity, it costs a different thing.
You have to factor in efficiency in that equation too.
Yeah, all I'm saying is, I don't know that you know, a building takes so much energy to heat, and maybe you can put in new radiators or something, and it's a little better, but it's not going to be zero. And even if you're going to spend the money to modernize the radiators, you still have to make a choice between heating them with electricity or heating them with gas. You know.
Just say, for example, with gas, 20% of the energy goes up to the chimney, for example.
I don't know.
You have to factor efficiencies in there.
There are, I know that you can buy furnaces now that are 95% efficient for your house.
Obviously.
Unfortunately, I couldn't do that in my house, but I looked at it.
Rebecca?
Thank you. I was just gonna point out that for the newer buildings, when they're using electricity to heat the buildings, you have to remember that it's a heat pump. So it's not like resistant heating where you're just an old school, you know, electric heater where you just turn the electricity directly into heat. You're pumping the heat from the outside, even though the outside is colder, right? So they're significantly more than 100%, you know, efficiency because it's a heat pump. And I don't know the exact conversion, but the old school kind of table of like how much you pay for electric heating and how much you pay for gas heating assumed an old fashioned like just resistant heating, which is not what they do now. It's just that it's a lot.
But nonetheless, I think somebody ought to look at the difference in the cost. That's fine.
Sure.
John?
Yeah, I just had one possible clarification. I think we talked about this last year. You mentioned that the electricity includes all of the schools. I thought we looked at this last year and there actually was a significant electric line item in the school budget. And this kind of feels really low to heat, to provide electricity to heat for all the schools. So just for discussion purposes, I think this only includes the non-school buildings. And there's a electricity and natural gas line items in the school budget. I don't have the school budget in front of me, but that's what I recall from last year.
I wrote down all the school though. Do either of you two have something different? I can double check, but
Okay,
that's
if I have a
what.
school budget, I could do a quick search. I mean, last year's school budget, but you know, and I mean, it just maybe for discussion purposes. And thank you.
Yeah, he pulled up all of the different accounts and it looked like the schools were on there, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in charge of like, maintaining them and overseeing them, but, yeah, I thought the school's kicking in a certain amount for these, for those costs too.
If you could check Jordan, that'd be good. Sophie?
So I was gonna mention that too, because I had in my notes that last year we said it did not include schools, so just
Yeah.
to confirm that was last year's discussion, so if we could clear that up.
Thank you.
A couple other notes here on salary detail, just for information purposes, the 4 people that were on the spreadsheet last year, there's none of their steps have changed, but their salaries have, so again, just a spreadsheet issue for cleanup purposes. But I did notice the weekend custodian went up from a 0.23 to a 0.34. Do we know why? FTE.
So I do not, I know that this position they had trouble filling for a long time, but I did not.
Right, I noticed because even though the steps went down, the salary went up, and then I realized what it was is the FTE went up.
Yeah, I'm happy to look into it.
And then the other, right, and then I think I was just gonna, comment that I'm also just concerned at the budget numbers. We keep level funding a lot of things, and yet the actuals keep showing us that that's not enough. So I think we need to go back and increase numbers if that's what has to be done, so we're not, make it more realistic.
No, I completely agree. I have a problem, we've done some pretty significant transfers, over 100,000 to have to balance it out. And yeah, I think it takes some significant moving of money around to get it correct and more accurate with, what we've had to do in the past.
Yeah, I think we need to stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm very interested in knowing what the estimate is now of what their transfer request might be. And I think we have to look at it very critically this year.
Can we move to table, this budget until we get more answers or refined numbers, so we can.
Sophie, you are free to do anything you want.
Careful.
You
Do the whole budget, no.
Would you like to move to table and if the group agrees?
Yes, I would like to move to table to address some of these issues.
Is there a second?
Second.
But let's have some more questions. Topher.
Yeah, just on the question about electricity in the schools. I'm looking at last year's superintendent's budget, and there's an OE power electricity line, and the FY26 budget is 2.26 million.
It's about 2 million this year.
27 is 1.82.
Other questions or comments about this facilities budget? Alright, so there's a motion to postpone this until we get further information. It's been seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. 2. Opposed? 1. Abstentions? 0. Alright, we'll postpone it. Alright, hopefully see what information you can get for Wednesday or Monday. That'd be great.
We'll follow up and we'll get answers to these and, we'll double check and make sure I just didn't write down, the wrong thing for schools.
Thank you, Jordan. This has been a lot of information that you've given us, so we appreciate it. All right, is there anyone who has any other budget that we can deal with tonight? Because we have time, lots and lots of time. Nobody, let's run down and see what the status is of the remaining budgets. IT, Topher.
Yeah, hopefully Wednesday.
Treasurer, collector, postage, hopefully Wednesday. parking. Will parking be ready?
Meeting tomorrow, so let's hope we have it Wednesday, yes.
Okay, great, thank you, Michael. Public Works. Paul? Public Works, when,
Just talking.
We could
That's-
probably do DPW next week.
okay. And insurance. And water and sewer, wake, capital will be next week. So I think we're in good shape, especially if we can knock off some good budgets on Wednesday. And if we get DPW next week, that'd be great. All right, let's talk about the warrant. Has everyone had a chance to look at the warrant? Alan, I don't know if you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean,
Talk about.
I've gone through it a few times. The thing I think, when the manager comes in, there's a series of, warrant articles on fees and fines. There's a couple on revolving funds, creating, I think, one or two new ones. So I think those, we should hear what the manager's doing. Obviously, it impacts finances. But unless we vehemently disagree with what the manager's doing, I didn't see any particular, warrant articles that they're all bylaw changes, they'll all be selectmen's. I didn't catch, I could have missed them, but I didn't catch any appropriation articles. So, and then the zoning, again, I didn't see any appropriation articles, so I didn't see anything we need to hear. But we have a couple of the manager articles, again, on revolving funds and his usual articles that we should ask about when he comes in.
And that will be on the 18th. Anybody have it, Alan?
What about the appropriation for Grove Street? Sounds like it might be $170,000, Article 80.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah.
It'll be in, the manager will be
It's in the appropriation articles.
Yeah, okay.
So definitely any of the manager articles we need to hear about.
Charlie?
Alan, thank you, Madam Chair. Alan, on Article 8, this regulation of outdoor lighting, it says, "Or take any action there too." Is that gonna require any cost to the town? Because the town has most of the outdoor lighting.
Oh, we can ask the manager when he comes in.
Yeah,
There's, with respect to the something skies, dark skies international
I mean,
model.
usually that's a position of, making sure the light goes down and not up.
Could incur some hardware costs.
Yeah, I mean, there are, I don't know how many thousand streetlights there are in town.
But I suspect it's only when things get changed that you're.
Well, we don't know, that's why I'm asking the question.
That might be a question to ask Director of DPW, what he knows about this article and what he foresees, if anything, in terms of needing to change street lights or building lights.
That was regulation of outdoor lighting.
Charlie?
So, also, on Articles 24 and 25, this is a bylaw amendment to take money from the, for our Irving Street, which I think 17 Irving Street is probably the Parmenter School.
Correct.
Pardon?
Correct.
Yeah, and then there's Article 25, which is the community center, we know what that is. So it's to create revolving funds, which I gather would be to take the rents coming from those buildings and put them in the revolving fund. And I think we should find out what the boundary conditions are on these articles. you know, so, in other words, if suddenly we're getting more rent from the Irving Street, from the farm to school, as a hypothetical, we should be able to use it to fix the community center. I'm very concerned about this vulcanization of funds because you know, they all don't require the same amount of money at the same time, and there's a pool of money there that's being created, and there's a pool of needs. And I'm concerned that we're, by doing these revolving funds, we're gonna hobble the ability to maintain those buildings in a smooth fashion.
I think these are good questions for the manager when it comes to the 18th.
Yeah, those were the ones I was thinking of, over some of the others for the manager. Do you want to put together a list for him, or shall I?
Go ahead. Sophie?
The one that I saw that's not town manager related, but is still fees, is Article 20 on waiving rabies vaccination and waiving license fees for owners over 70 years of age. That's put in by the town clerk. And I think I had some questions about, I don't understand the rabies vaccination waiver, I don't know what that means. And then also, recently at one of our meetings, there was mention of, or maybe it was when Dave and I were with the town manager, that a lot of the weekend garbage pickup work in the parks is all related to dog bags being, I mean, that's a huge cost to the town, that these trash cans fill up on the weekends, so I'm not quite understanding why we would be.
But this is to specify the process to grant a waiver,
Okay,
not necessarily to do any
all right, so it's
changing
just
in
the
fees.
process,
That's what the language of
okay,
it.
so maybe I just didn't see that word, and then to specify the process, so, but that means we've already said we're granting waivers of rabies vaccinations and fees?
It looks like yes, because Title 8, Article 2, Section 4B1 seems to provide for
Alright,
a
we'll
waiver.
do that. Sorry, thank you.
Topher.
Yeah, one I had a question about was Article 31, the 61B exemption. Now, I don't know if the manager will know, because this is a citizen-initiated one, but this is about, there's a couple of golf courses, portions that are in Arlington, for the true country clubs, and they can get, right now, they get, at least one of them has applied for and consistently gotten a huge tax discount. It's 25% of the regular rate. And I think this is attempting to try to, exempt the town from having to do that. So I guess it would affect revenues for the town, if it's successful. Now, it's a home rule petition, so who knows? But I wasn't quite sure how we would get more information on that. Whether it's something this committee should talk about.
How do people feel? We can get the proponents of the article, we can request that they come in. People want to do that? We will try to get them in sometime next week or the week after. What else?
He's coming on the 18th.
It's coming in on the 18th. All right, so we'll work on Article 31. Tosti will do a list for the manager, and then we will talk to him on the 18th. So on Wednesday, we have Minuteman, right? And the materials have been sent out.
Yes, I've gotten questions from Rebecca and from Michael, which I have forwarded to them.
Thank you.
If you have any other questions, get them to me tomorrow and I'll forward them to the superintendent. And so she could be prepared with answers. This will be the third year in a row since I've taken over that our assessment has gone down. So
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. All right, so we'll do Minuteman first on Wednesday, give it as much time as it needs. And then we'll start with budgets, probably with IT, first, I think. And then finish off what we can finish off. And then on Monday, we have the CPA. And they have promised to get us stuff by Thursday, correct?
That's right, that's the other CPA. Yes.
Yeah. And then capital plan, Daryl, when will we have?
Friday, I think, this Friday.
Right. And then schools on the 16th. We manage on the 18th. That's the program. Right now. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have anything else they want to talk about tonight?
I still haven't heard from Disability Commission, so I'll be following up with somebody. I don't know who.
All right, well, we'll look to you to make a recommendation of what to do with that budget. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we adjourn.
On the minute.